are the book banning issues, is that not a state issue? Is that a state issue or a local issue?
Local, and he's
okay. That's all I want to know.
The home book wasn't
but
there.
That was the question I have.
1,400
here's the question I have for you, Governor Newsom. Some of the books you're talking about, one is called, the governor just brought it up, it's called Gender Queer, a memoir, explicit pornographic book showing sex acts. Another, Flamer, graphic book about young boys performing sex acts at summer camp. This book is Gay, a book containing instructions on the ins and outs of gay sexuality. Let me finish. Let's Talk About It, a book that contains graphic descriptions about how to masturbate for males and females. My question to you, Governor Newsom, those books, do you believe that's appropriate for school districts to teach kids, yes or no?
Come on, those aren't, it's not part of the curriculum. They're not teaching
those
kids
are those are books that were in school.
Hold on. The bottom line is you are on a book banning binge, your state. 1,406 books, 3,362 in this country.
You didn't answer. What about those books?
That's not, we don't provide for K through third grade education, that kind of curriculum. It's just made up. These guys make it up. It's part of this cultural purge.
Should it
it's
be?
Just a
what grade would it be acceptable?
What I find offensive, Sean and Ron, what I find offensive is a very significant number of these books happen to be LGBTQ books. A significant number of these books happen to be about African Americans.
Do you think it's
honestly
Governor?
I told you,
think it's appropriate in school?
We don't teach that. We have sex education in middle schools and high schools where it's appropriate. This is a ginned up, made up issue to divide this country. You talk about dividing this country. This is part of the culture war, the weaponization of grievance. This is part using education. We're focusing on math, science. We're focusing on reimagining our school system.
We're going to get to education
He's criminalizing teachers and criminalizing librarians. Check out the wrong book.
The schools to impose a liberal agenda, social justice. They have this ethnic studies where they're dividing people. That's what they're doing. But let me just say something about parents' rights, because he says California respects parents' rights. This is rich. He's been telling a lot of whoppers tonight. This may be the biggest. In California, if you're a parent in Iowa or New Hampshire or South Carolina, your minor child can go to California without your knowledge or without your consent and get hormone therapy, puberty blockers, and a sex change operation, all without you knowing or consenting. How in the heck is that honoring parents' rights when you're bringing people from out of state to go around their parents' backs and getting life-altering surgeries? That is radical. That is
Ron,
extreme.
These kids
that is an assault on parents' rights.
You know what, Ron?
It's not for you to decide. It's for the parents to decide. And the parents do not want their kids going to these other things.
Let me go to a follow-up. Let me stay on a follow-up. Let's turn to the issue of education.
Where's your decency and humanity and grace when it comes to these things?
Ripping somebody away,
gentlemen, please. Nobody can hear you.
That is wrong. That is wrong.
I'll tell you,
that should not stand in this country.
I'm looking at total time. Governor DeSantis, about 2 minutes.
He needs it.
This is a map of San Francisco. There's a lot of plots on that. You may be asking, what is that plotting? Well, this is an app where they plot the human feces that are found on the streets of San Francisco. And you see how almost the whole thing is covered, because that is what has happened in one of the previous greatest cities this country's ever had. Human feces is now a fact of life, except when a communist dictator comes to town. Then they cleaned up the streets. They lined the streets with Chinese flags. They didn't put American flags.
Let's talk about COVID. Let's talk about your record on COVID. You passed an emergency declaration before the state of California did. You closed down your beaches, your bars, your restaurants.
False.
It's a fact. You had quarantines. You had quarantines. You had checkpoints all over the state of Florida. By the way, I didn't say that. Donald Trump laid you out on this. Dead to right. You did that.
True.
You followed science. You followed Fauci, Ron Santos.
That's not false.
He followed science. He followed Fauci. You were promoting. Hold on. You were promoting vaccines. You were promoting vaccines. You even wore a mask in September.
You were closed.
If it's okay with you, we'll do this.
Why were you closed?
Why don't we do this in a way where we both can have
Why were you closed for so long?
You wore a mask with Donald Trump outside
I'm trying to let it breathe.
in September 2020. He did all of that until he decided to fall prey to the fringe of his party. And as a consequence of that, Ron, tens of thousands of people lost their lives.
Not true.
The equivalent, if I had your policies, the equivalent of 10 9/11s. Tens of thousands of people lost their lives. And for what, Ron?
Those are more lies. In fact, the Lancet just did a study. Florida had a lower standardized COVID death rate than California did. That's a Lancet study. One more thing. The other thing we had, the other thing California had higher excess mortality than Florida.
All right, gentlemen.
Let me talk about the excess mortality real quick.
Honestly,
because the
hold on a
excess
second.
mortality is other things.
I want to ask you both. Slow down. I want everyone to be heard. If I can ask you, I really do want this to breathe. I want this debate to breathe. I want it to organically develop. To do that, I need both your cooperation. I don't want to be a hall monitor. It's not my style, all right? You mentioned COVID. Let me go to COVID. And I plan to bring this up later, but you both took very different approaches as it comes to COVID. Governor Newsom, you issued the nation's first stay-at-home order on March 19th of 2020. Governor DeSantis, you took a lot of heat for reopening schools. You opened schools in Florida in August of 2020. All right, so here's the data, which I think is important. This is where the facts come in. Your state's death rates were almost identical.
This is factually untrue.
Hold on.
Factually untrue.
Okay. And by the way, both your states, with such different approaches, which is pretty fascinating, were both lower, significantly lower than the national average. These numbers come straight from the CDC. Yeah. So, Governor Newsom, how do you explain that?
The facts. Per capita death rates in the state of Florida were 29%, 29% per capita higher. 29%.
That's not what the stats say right there.
Tens of thousands of people unnecessarily died.
Don't lie about it. He put the graphic up there. Don't lie about it.
Unnecessarily
you don't need to lie about it.
Because your policies.
Just understand.
You're lying
you don't
about
need to
your
lie
record.
about it. No, it's not.
You were a lockdown governor.
No, it's
you
not.
locked down
one at a time. Gavin Newsom, finish your thought.
Beaches, bars, and restaurants. That's just a fact. He's running away from his record. He's running away from the fact. Tens of thousands of people died unnecessarily
you saw the CDC
because he
numbers.
caved to the. It's 29% higher death rate in the state of Florida versus the state of California.
Okay, quick response, Governor.
You showed the stats. The stats are very clear.
One at a time.
On a per capita age-adjusted basis, California and Florida basically the same. Now, why is that important? Because Gavin Newsom did huge damage to people in California. He ruined livelihoods. We reopened the state very quickly. We saved thousands of jobs. We saved hundreds of thousands of jobs, thousands of businesses. We had our kids in school. He had the kids locked out of school because of the teachers union. That is having a generational impact. California has one of the lowest literacy rates in the country. In the most recent NAEP exam, Florida came in number 3 for 4th grade reading. California was far, far behind. So you should apologize for not getting your kids in school. Why didn't you get the kids in school in the summer of 2020 like we did?
The only
you bowed to the teachers union. You didn't do the job you should have done.
All right, the only person one at a time, quick answer, is Ron DeSantis for the tens of thousands of lives that died unnecessarily because he played to the fringe of his party.
We got to take a break. And finish your thought.
No, and when it comes to the issue of schools, you better be careful. You had more learning loss during COVID than the national average in the state of California. It's a fact. More learning loss. Your economy contracted more in 2020.
Quick break.
Expanded slower than California in 2021. More to come on this topic.
More to come on this debate.